Welcome to I'm Me, and tonight we're diving into a brand new Hercule Poirot mystery, crafted in the timeless style of Agatha Christie. Picture this: a misty harbour in 1920s Cornwall, a luxurious seaside manor, and a crime that seems impossible. This is Blood Across the Amber Harbour, a tale of deception, deduction, and dark secrets. Settle in, grab a cup of tea, and let's unravel this mystery together. Oh, and do tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Chapter 1. The Arrival at Amber Harbour. The train rattled along the Cornish coastline, its wheels clacking in rhythm with the restless sea beyond. Hercule Poirot sat in his first-class compartment, his gloved hands folded neatly over the silver handle of his cane, his moustache impeccably trimmed, as always. The grey November sky pressed low, and the air carried the sharp tang of salt and impending rain. Poirot's sharp eyes, however, were not on the scenery, but on a letter, creased from frequent reading, penned in the elegant but urgent hand of Lord Reginald Ashbourne. "Mon ami," Poirot murmured to himself, "what a delicate matter requires the attention of Hercule Poirot at this remote corner of England." The letter had been vague, mentioning only a family concern and a pressing need for discretion. Lord Ashbourne, a man of wealth and influence, owned Cresthaven Manor, a grand estate overlooking Amber Harbour, a small but prosperous fishing town. The invitation intrigued Poirot, for it hinted at secrets beneath the surface of aristocratic propriety. A puzzle worthy of his little grey cells. As the train slowed, Poirot tucked the letter into his coat and adjusted his hat. The platform at Amber Harbour was modest, its wooden planks slick with sea mist. A tall, stooped figure in a black suit awaited him, Mr. Grayson, the butler of Cresthaven Manor. His face was lined, his eyes sharp but guarded, as though he carried the weight of the manor's secrets in his very posture. "Monsieur Poirot," Grayson said, bowing slightly, "Lord Ashbourne is most grateful for your visit. The motor car is this way." Poirot inclined his head. "Merci, Monsieur Grayson. I trust the journey from the manor was not too arduous." Grayson's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "The roads are winding, sir, but manageable. The storm may make things difficult tonight, however." They stepped into a sleek Rolls-Royce, its engine purring as it climbed the coastal road toward Cresthaven Manor. The harbour below shimmered faintly, its waters catching the last light of day in hues of amber and gold. Poirot noted the fishing boats bobbing in the distance, their masts swaying like metronomes. The manor itself loomed ahead, a sprawling edifice of stone and ivy, its amber-hued windows glowing like embers against the gathering dusk. The architecture was Georgian, grand yet austere, with tall chimneys and a sense of permanence that seemed to defy the restless sea. Inside, the manor was a study in Tudor opulence. The entrance hall boasted a chandelier of cut crystal, its light refracting across polished oak floors. Portraits of Ashbourne ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following Poirot as Grayson led him to the drawing-room. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows over velvet drapes and mahogany furniture. The air carried the faint scent of beeswax and lavender, undercut by something sharper. Tension, perhaps. Lord Reginald Ashbourne rose to greet him. A man in his late 50s, he was broad-shouldered but gaunt, his face etched with worry. His grey hair was thinning, and his eyes, though keen, betrayed a flicker of unease. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, extending a hand, "your reputation precedes you. I'm immensely grateful you've come." Poirot bowed. "The pleasure is mine, Lord Ashbourne. Your letter, it spoke of a delicate matter. Perhaps you will enlighten Poirot." Lord Ashbourne hesitated, glancing at the others in the room. "In due time, sir. First, allow me to introduce my household." Seated near the fire was Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, his wife, a woman of striking beauty despite her 40 years. Her auburn hair was pinned elegantly, and her emerald dress spoke of wealth, but her eyes were cold, assessing Poirot as if he were a ledger to be balanced. She offered a polite smile that did not reach her gaze. Next was Clara Ashbourne, their daughter, barely 20, with a defiant tilt to her chin. Her dark curls framed a face that was both delicate and stormy, as though she carried a rebellion within her. She had recently returned from Paris, Grayson had whispered in the car, and her presence seemed to unsettle the room. Dr. Victor Hargrove, the family physician, stood by the window, his lean frame silhouetted against the amber glow. He was handsome, with a charming smile, but his fingers drummed nervously on the windowsill. Poirot noted the faintest tremor in his hands, a sign of secrets perhaps. Miss Beatrice Lyle, Clara's former governess and now her companion, sat primly on a settee. Her plain grey dress and tightly pinned hair suggested restraint, but her eyes darted about, missing nothing. She murmured a greeting, her voice soft but laced with steel. Captain Hugh Ramsay, a naval officer and family friend, lounged near the fire, his weathered face telling of years at sea. His uniform was immaculate, but his boots bore traces of mud, suggesting a recent walk along the cliffs. He nodded to Poirot, his expression guarded. Finally, Mrs. Florence Grayson, the housekeeper and Grayson's wife, hovered near the door. Her round face was kind but wary, and her hands twisted in her apron as she curtsied. Poirot sensed she knew more than she let on, as housekeepers often did. Dinner was announced, and the group moved to the dining room, a cavernous space with a long table set with silver and crystal. The meal was exquisite, roast pheasant, glazed vegetables, and a fine claret, but the conversation was so strained. Lord Ashbourne spoke vaguely of a family heirloom, a ruby-encrusted dagger of great value, which had gone missing. "A trifling matter, perhaps," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. Lady Eleanor's fork paused mid-air, and Clara's eyes flashed with something: anger, guilt. Poirot could not yet tell. Captain Ramsay regaled them with tales of a recent shipwreck off the coast, his voice booming but his eyes darting to Lord Ashbourne. Dr. Hargrove spoke little, though he watched Clara with an intensity that Poirot noted. Miss Lyle deflected questions about her past, while Mrs. Grayson, serving the meal, lingered longer than necessary, her ears attuned to every word. As the meal ended, a gust of wind rattled the windows, and the amber light seemed to flicker, casting long shadows across the table. Poirot leaned back, his fingers steepled. Mon Dieu, he thought, this manor is a stage, and its players are hiding their scripts. The tension was palpable, a web of unspoken grudges and secrets. Lord Ashbourne's delicate matter was no mere theft, Poirot suspected, but something far darker. Grayson escorted Poirot to his room, a luxurious suite overlooking the harbour. The butler lingered, his voice low. "Be cautious, sir. Cresthaven Manor has its shadows." Poirot smiled faintly. "Shadows, Monsieur Grayson, are where Hercule Poirot finds the truth." As Grayson departed, Poirot stood by the window, watching the amber harbour glow under a rising moon. The storm was coming, and with it he sensed a revelation. He unpacked his small case, arranging his toiletries with precision, and sat at the desk to review his notes. Each guest had a motive, however veiled: Lady Eleanor's cold ambition, Clara's defiance, Hargrove's unease, Lyle's secrecy, Ramsay's debts, and Mrs. Grayson's quiet knowledge. The ruby dagger was a clue, but to what? He closed his eyes, letting his little grey cells hum. The puzzle was only beginning, but already Amber Harbour whispered its secrets. Host, what a start to our mystery. What do you think Poirot's first clue will be? Is it the missing dagger, or something deeper? Drop your guesses in the comments, and let's see who can match Poirot's wits. Chapter 2. The Crime Discovered. The storm that had threatened Cresthaven Manor broke with fury in the early hours, its winds howling like a chorus of restless spirits. Hercule Poirot, ever an early riser, was already dressed in his immaculate suit, his moustache perfectly waxed, when a piercing scream shattered the morning's quiet. It came from the west wing, where Lord Ashbourne's study lay, and Poirot's keen senses prickled with foreboding. He stepped into the corridor, his cane tapping softly on the polished oak floor, and followed the sound. The scream had come from Mrs. Florence Grayson, the housekeeper, who stood trembling outside the study door, her apron clutched to her chest. Her round face was pale, her eyes wide with horror. "Monsieur Poirot," she gasped, spotting him. It's Lord Ashbourne. He's dead." Poirot's expression remained calm, though his eyes sharpened. "Calmez-vous, Madame Grayson. Show me." The study door was locked, its heavy oak unyielding. Mr. Grayson, the butler, appeared moments later, his own composure fraying as he produced a ring of keys. "I checked the door at midnight, sir," he said, his voice low. "It was locked then, as always." With a click, the door swung open, revealing a scene that would linger in the memory of all who saw it. Lord Reginald Ashbourne lay slumped over his mahogany desk, his lifeless eyes staring into nothingness. The ruby-encrusted dagger, the very heirloom he had mentioned at dinner, was plunged deep into his chest, its blade gleaming with a cruel mockery of the amber light streaming through the room's tall windows. The harbour beyond shimmered in the dawn, its golden hues casting an eerie glow over the body, as if the sea itself mourned. Poirot stepped forward, his movements precise, his gaze sweeping the room. The study was a fortress of solitude. Bookshelves lined with leather-bound tomes, a fireplace cold and dark, and windows bolted shut from the inside. The only entrance was the door, now unlocked, and there were no signs of forced entry. A faint, acrid scent hung in the air. Bitter almonds, Poirot noted, his mind racing. The desk held papers, a quill, and a pocket watch, its hands frozen at 11:45 p.m. Lord Ashbourne's face showed no struggle, only a faint grimace, as though death had come swiftly. Mrs. Grayson stifled a sob. Who could do such a thing? In a locked room, no less. Poirot raised a hand. Patience, madame. The truth, it reveals itself to those who observe. He knelt beside the body, examining the dagger. The wound was clean, precise, suggesting a single deliberate strike. No blood had pooled on the floor, and the chair remained upright. Curious, Poirot murmured. The man dies, yet the scene is orderly. The household gathered, drawn by Mrs. Grayson's scream. Lady Eleanor Ashbourne entered first, her emerald dressing-gown trailing like a shadow. Her face paled at the sight of her husband, but her lips pressed into a thin line, betraying little grief. "Reginald," she whispered, then turned away, her hands trembling slightly. Clara Ashbourne burst in next, her dark curls dishevelled, her eyes wide with shock. "Father!" she cried, rushing toward the desk, only to be gently restrained by Poirot. "Mademoiselle, you must not touch the scene," he said firmly. Her gaze darted to the dagger, and for a moment Poirot thought he saw recognition in her eyes. Dr. Victor Hargrove followed, his medical bag in hand, though his expression suggested he already knew its contents would be useless. He checked Lord Ashbourne's pulse, shaking his head. He's been dead for hours, likely since last night. Miss Beatrice Lyle, Clara's companion, stood at the edge of the group, her face unreadable. Her hands were clasped tightly, and Poirot noted the faintest tremor in her fingers. Captain Hugh Ramsay, the naval officer, was last, his weathered face grim. "Good God," he muttered, staring at the dagger. "I saw a figure near the cliffs last night. A stranger. Could it be related?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "A stranger, you say? Interessant. We shall explore this, Captain." The local police arrived within the hour, led by Inspector Japp, a familiar face to Poirot. Japp's moustache twitched as he surveyed the scene. "A locked room, eh, Poirot? You've got your work cut out for you. No one could have got in or out, unless they're a ghost." Poirot smiled faintly. "Ghosts, my friend, do not wield daggers, but let us examine the facts." He began his inspection with meticulous care. The windows, bolted from within, showed no signs of tampering. The door's lock was intact, its key now in Mr. Grayson's possession. The bitter almond scent suggested cyanide, yet the dagger implied a physical attack. Poirot knelt by the desk, noting the pocket watch's stopped hands. 11:45, he mused. The time of death, perhaps, or a clue left by the killer. Clara, still shaken, spoke up. "I heard a noise last night around midnight. A thud, like something falling from this direction." Her voice wavered, and Poirot studied her closely. Was it fear, or something else? Captain Ramsay nodded. "And I told you I saw that figure by the cliffs. It was dark, but I swear it wasn't one of us." Lady Eleanor's voice cut through, sharp and controlled. "This is nonsense. Reginald was not a man to make enemies. It must be a robbery gone wrong. The dagger was valuable." Poirot turned to her. "And yet, madame, the dagger remains. A thief would take it, no?" She faltered, her composure slipping. Dr. Hargrove cleared his throat. "The body shows no signs of a struggle. If it was cyanide, it could have been administered earlier, and the dagger used to mislead us." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Precisement, doctor. But who would go to such lengths? And how, in a room locked from within?" Mrs. Grayson, hovering near the door, whispered, "The manor has its secrets, sir. Old passages, hidden corners." Poirot's gaze flicked to her. "Passages, you say? Show me." She led him to a bookshelf, its carved panels heavy with dust. A tug on a hidden lever revealed a narrow passage, but its walls were collapsed, choked with rubble. "It hasn't been used in years," Mrs. Grayson said, her voice barely audible. "Hélas," Poirot said, "the passage is no answer. But the mind of Hercule Poirot, it sees beyond stone." Japp, growing impatient, barked orders to his men to search the grounds. "We'll find this stranger of yours, Ramsay," he said, "but I'm betting the answer's closer to home." The household dispersed, each member casting suspicious glances at the others. Poirot remained in the study, his fingers tracing the desk's edge. The amber light from the harbour seemed to pulse, as if whispering clues he had yet to decipher. The dagger, the watch, the locked door, the bitter almonds. Each was a piece of the puzzle, but the picture remained elusive. He stepped to the window, gazing at the stormy sea. "The crime," he murmured. "It is impossible, yet it has been done. The killer is clever, but Hercule Poirot is more so." As the rain lashed the manor, Poirot's thoughts churned. The suspect's motives were already forming. Lady Eleanor's ambition, Clara's rebellion, Hargrove's secrecy, Lyle's evasiveness, Ramsay's debts, and Mrs. Grayson's knowledge of the manor's shadows. The locked room was no mere trick. It was a challenge, one Poirot was determined to meet. Host. An impossible crime. A locked room, a dagger, and the scent of cyanide. How do you think the killer did it? Drop your theories in the comments, and let's see if you can outwit Poirot. Chapter 3. Investigation begins. The rain had settled into a relentless drizzle, cloaking Cresthaven Manor in a grey veil that mirrored the mood within. Hercule Poirot stood in the study where Lord Reginald Ashburn had met his end, his gloved hands clasped behind his back, his eyes scanning every detail with the precision of a jeweller. The amber light from the harbour filtered through the bolted windows, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with secrets. Inspector Japp, pacing near the door, muttered about the impossibility of the crime, but Poirot's mind was elsewhere, his little grey cells humming with purpose. "Mon ami," Poirot said, turning to Japp, "the locked room. It is not a barrier, but a canvas. The killer paints a picture to deceive us, but Hercule Poirot sees through the illusion." Japp snorted. "Illusion or not, Poirot, we've got a body, a dagger, and no way in or out. I've got my men scouring the cliffs for Ramsay's stranger, but I'm betting the killer's under this roof." Poirot inclined his head. "Précisément. Let us speak with the household, for the truth lies in their words and what they do not say." He began with Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, summoning her to the drawing-room. She sat stiffly, her emerald eyes cold as the sea beyond. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice measured, "I loved my husband, but he was a difficult man, controlling. He held the purse strings tightly, even when it came to my own inheritance." Poirot's moustache twitched. "And this caused friction, madame?" She hesitated, her fingers smoothing her dress. "Naturally. But I was in my room all night, as Grayson can confirm. I heard nothing until Mrs. Grayson's scream this morning." Poirot noted her composure. Too perfect, perhaps. "The ruby dagger, madame. You knew its value. Was it not a temptation?" Her lips tightened. "If I wanted wealth, I'd have left Reginald years ago. The dagger was his obsession, not mine." Next was Clara Ashbourne, who entered with a defiant toss of her dark curls. Her hands fidgeted, betraying the bravado in her eyes. "I didn't kill my father," she said before Poirot could speak. "Yes, we argued. He disapproved of my time in Paris, cut me off financially, but murder? Never." Poirot leaned forward. "Mademoiselle, you mentioned a noise at midnight. A thud, you said. From where?" Clara frowned. I'm not sure. It was faint from the west wing, I think. I was half asleep." "And your time in Paris?" Poirot pressed. "What brought you back to Cresthaven?" Her gaze flickered. "I missed home," she said, too quickly. Poirot made a mental note. Clara's Parisian past held secrets. Dr. Victor Hargrove was next, his charming smile strained as he sat. "I was Lord Ashbourne's physician," he said, "but we had a disagreement recently. He owed me for treatments, substantial sums." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "A motive, perhaps, doctor? And the scent of bitter almonds? Cyanide? No? You are familiar with such substances." Hargrove paled. "Cyanide is in my medical kit, yes, for rare treatments. But I swear I didn't use it on him. I was in my room, reading until dawn." Poirot nodded, unconvinced. "We shall see, doctor. The truth, it does not hide for long." Miss Beatrice Lyle, Clara's companion, was a study in restraint, her grey dress as severe as her expression. "Lord Ashbourne was kind to me," she said softly. "He kept me on after Clara outgrew her governess. I owe him everything." Poirot tilted his head. "And yet, mademoiselle, I hear you spoke of a debt to him. What did you mean?" Her eyes widened, then dropped. "A figure of speech. I meant gratitude, nothing more." Her fingers twisted in her lap, and Poirot sensed a lie. Captain Hugh Ramsay strode in, his navel bearing intact despite the mud on his boots. "I saw that figure by the cliffs," he insisted. "Around 11:30 p.m., near the old lighthouse. I couldn't sleep, took a walk. It wasn't one of us." Poirot's gaze lingered on the boots. "And you, Captain, owed Lord Ashbourne money, oui? A failed venture, perhaps?" Ramsay's jaw tightened. "He invested in my shipping business. It didn't go as planned, but I'm no murderer." Finally, Poirot spoke with Mrs. Florence Grayson in the kitchen, where she busied herself with tea, her hands trembling. "The manor's full of secrets," she whispered. "Lord Ashbourne had enemies, even among his own. I heard him arguing with Dr. Hargrove last week, something about money." Poirot leaned closer. "And the passage you showed me, madame, could it have been used?" She shook her head. "It's been blocked for years. I only mentioned it because, well, this house feels alive sometimes watching us." Poirot returned to the study, where Japp was examining the desk. "Found something," Japp said, holding up a broken pocket watch, its hand stuck at 11:45 p.m. "Time of death, you reckon?" Poirot frowned. "Perhaps, or perhaps a message." He inspected the watch, noting its cracked glass and worn leather strap. It was not the sort of trinket a man like Lord Ashbourne would carry. Too plain, too old. He turned his attention to the room itself. The bookshelves held no more hidden passages, but a faint scratch on the floor near the desk caught his eye. He knelt, tracing the mark. "Interessant," he murmured. It suggested something heavy had been moved. But what? The desk was immovable, and the chair showed no signs of disturbance. Japp's men returned from the cliffs, reporting no trace of Ramsay's stranger. "Waste of time," Japp grumbled. "This is a family affair, Poirot. Mark my words." Poirot smiled faintly. "The family, yes, but also the manor. It speaks, if we listen." He stepped to the window, gazing at the amber harbour, its glow muted by the rain. The locked room was a puzzle, but not unsolvable. The cyanide suggested poison, yet the dagger implied violence. The stopped watch hinted at manipulation, and the scratch on the floor whispered of something moved or hidden. Each suspect had a motive. Lady Eleanor's control of the estate, Clara's financial desperation, Hargrove's unpaid debts, Lyle's mysterious debt, Ramsay's failed venture, and Mrs. Grayson's intimate knowledge of the household's undercurrents. Poirot's thoughts were interrupted by Clara, who lingered in the doorway. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice low, "I found something in my father's study earlier, before you arrived. A letter, half burned, in the fireplace. I didn't tell anyone." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Show me, mademoiselle." She led him to the fireplace, where ashes lay cold. Among them was a fragment of paper, its edges charred. Poirot retrieved it with tweezers, reading the faint words, "To the betrayal, trust broken." The signature was illegible, but the handwriting was elegant, feminine. "Merci, mademoiselle," Poirot said. "This is most illuminating." As Clara left, Poirot stood alone, the fragment in his hand. The letter was a clue, but to what? A betrayal. By whom? The killer or the victim? The amber light seemed to pulse, as if urging him to see what lay hidden. "Mon Dieu," he murmured. "The puzzle grows complex, but Hercule Poirot will unravel it." Host: "What a tangle of motives! Who's your top suspect so far? Lady Eleanor, Clara, or someone else? And what about that mysterious letter?" Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's see if you can keep up with Poirot's little grey cells. Chapter 4. Clues and Red Herrings. The drizzle over Cresthaven Manor had thickened into a steady rain, drumming against the amber-hued windows. and casting a mournful rhythm over the investigation. Hercule Poirot stood in the grand hall, his sharp eyes flitting between the portraits of Ashbourne ancestors, their stern gazes seeming to judge the living. The air was heavy with suspicion, and the household moved like players in a tense chess game, each step calculated, each glance guarded. Poirot's little grey cells were alight, sifting through the fragments of the puzzle. A locked study, a ruby dagger, a whiff of cyanide, a stopped pocket watch, and a half-burned letter hinting at betrayal. "Mon ami," Poirot murmured to himself. "The truth is here, hidden in plain sight, but the killer weaves a tapestry of misdirection." He resolved to deepen his inquiry, seeking the clues that would illuminate the crime, and the red herrings that would obscure it. Poirot began in the study, where Inspector Japp was overseeing a constable dusting for fingerprints. The room remained as it was. Lord Ashbourne's body had been removed, but the ruby dagger, now in police custody, had left an indelible mark on the scene. Poirot's gaze fell on the scratch near the desk, noted the previous day. He knelt, his gloved fingers tracing the faint line in the oak floor. It was shallow, barely a whisper of movement, yet it suggested something, a drawer perhaps, or a hidden panel, had been shifted. "Japp," Poirot called, "have your men examined the desk for secret compartments?" Japp looked sceptical. "We've been over it, Poirot. Nothing but papers and a few trinkets. You think the killer hid something?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "Not hid, mon ami, but revealed. The scratch, it is a clue to intention." He opened the desk drawers, finding only ledgers and correspondence. But in the bottom drawer, tucked beneath a stack of bills, was a small key, its brass surface tarnished. It was too small for the study door or windows, suggesting another lock, perhaps a safe or a private box. Poirot pocketed it, his mind racing. "Interessant," he said softly. "A key to what?" Leaving the study, Poirot sought out Dr. Victor Hargrove, finding him in the manor's small library, a cosy room lined with books and smelling of leather and dust. Hargrove was rifling through his medical bag, his hands unsteady. Poirot's entrance startled him, and a glass vial slipped from his fingers, rolling across the floor. Poirot retrieved it, noting the label, potassium cyanide. "Doctor," Poirot said, his voice calm but piercing, "this is most curious. Cyanide in your possession when Lord Ashbourne's death carries its scent." Hargrove's face flushed. "It's for medical use. Rare, but legitimate. I treat certain conditions with minute doses. I swear, Monsieur Poirot, I didn't use it on him." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And yet, Doctor, you argued with Lord Ashbourne over money. A man in debt, with poison at hand. It is a picture most unfortunate." Hargrove's jaw tightened. "I was in my room all night. Ask Mrs. Grayson. She brought me tea at 10. Poirot made a mental note to verify this. But the vial was a significant find, its implications as sharp as the dagger itself. Next, Poirot visited Clara Ashbourne's room, where she sat by a window, sketching the stormy harbour. Her fingers gripped the pencil tightly, and her sketch was chaotic, all jagged lines and dark waves. The half-burned letter she had shown him lingered in Poirot's mind. "Mademoiselle," he began, "this letter you found, why did you keep it secret until now?" Clara's eyes flicked to him, then away. "I was scared. It felt personal. Father never spoke of betrayal, but he was distant lately, secretive." Poirot produced the letter fragment, its charred edges stark against his gloved hand. "This handwriting, do you recognize it?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "No, but it's elegant like Mother's, or maybe Miss Lyle's." Poirot noted the uncertainty. Searching her room with her permission, he found a torn scrap of paper in a wastebasket, its handwriting matching the letter. The words were faint, "Must know the truth." Another piece of the puzzle, but was it a clue or a distraction? Outside, Poirot joined Japp's men near the cliffs, where Captain Hugh Ramsay had claimed to see a stranger. The rain-soaked ground revealed a single muddy boot print, its tread deep and unmistakably naval, matching Ramsay's own boots. Poirot crouched, examining it. "Curieux," he murmured. "The captain's story grows less convincing." Confronting Ramsay in the conservatory, Poirot was direct. "Captain, you're stranger by the cliffs, yet we find your boot print. Explain." Ramsay's weathered face reddened. "I told you! I was walking! I saw someone, I swear! Maybe my print got mixed up in the mud." Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. "And your debts to Lord Ashbourne? A man in need might take desperate measures." Ramsay stood, his fists clenched. "I'm no killer, Poirot. I owed him, yes, but I'd never repay him with a dagger." Poirot let him go, but the boot print gnawed at him. Was Ramsay's stranger a fabrication or a clever misdirection? In the kitchen, Mrs. Florence Grayson was polishing silver, her hands moving with nervous energy. Poirot sat across from her, his demeanour gentle. "Madame, you spoke of the manor's secrets. What else do you know?" Her eyes darted to the door. "I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but Lord Ashbourne, he had a past. There were rumours, years ago, of an affair. It broke Lady Eleanor's heart, though she'd never admit it." Poirot leaned forward. "And who else knew of this?" Mrs. Grayson hesitated. "Miss Lyle. She's been with the family for years. She hears things, knows things." This led Poirot to Miss Beatrice Lyle, whom he found in the drawing-room, embroidering with mechanical precision. Her calm was a mask, Poirot sensed, and he pressed gently. "Mademoiselle, Mrs. Grayson speaks of a scandal in Lord Ashbourne's past. You were close to the family. What did you hear?" Lyle's needle paused. "I don't gossip, Monsieur Poirot. My loyalty is to Clara, not to old rumours." "And yet," Poirot said, "I found this." He produced the small key from the desk. "Do you know what it unlocks?" Her eyes flickered, but she shook her head. "No, perhaps a jewellery box or a safe." Poirot sensed her evasion. As he left, he overheard her whisper to herself, "It's too late now." A clue, or another red herring? Back in the study, Poirot examined the fireplace where Clara's letter had been found. Among the ashes, he discovered a tiny button, mother of pearl, likely from a woman's glove. It matched none of the household's attire he had seen, suggesting an outsider or a deliberate plant. Japp, growing frustrated, joined him. "We've got nothing, Poirot. The cyanide points to Hargrove, but that boot print screams Ramsay. And now Lady Eleanor's got the study key, found it in her dressing table, though she swears she never touched it." Poirot's eyes gleamed. The key, the cyanide, the letter, the button, all pieces Japp, but not the picture. The killer is clever, scattering distractions like leaves in the wind. As evening fell, the amber harbour glowed faintly, its light a beacon in the storm. Poirot stood by the window, his mind sifting through the clues. The cyanide vial, the torn letter, the naval boot print, the mysterious button, and the small key. Each suspect's motive grew clearer. Lady Eleanor's control, Clara's rebellion, Hargrove's debts, Lyle's secrets, Ramsay's desperation, and Mrs. Grayson's knowledge. But the red herrings clouded the truth. Was the stranger real, or Ramsay's lie? Did the button belong to an outsider, or was it planted? And what did the key unlock? "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, "the killer plays a game, But Hercule Poirot is no pawn. Host: red herrings everywhere. Is the cyanide vial a smoking gun? Or is that boot print the real clue? Drop your theories in the comments, and let's see if you can spot the truth before Poirot. Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. The storm over Amber Harbour raged on, its winds rattling the windows of Cresthaven Manor like the restless spirits of its past. Hercule Poirot stood in the grand hall, his cane tapping softly against the polished oak floor, his mind a whirl of clues and contradictions. The locked study, the ruby dagger, the cyanide scent, the stopped pocket watch, the half-burned letter, the naval boot print, the mother-of-pearl button, and the small brass key. Each was a thread in a tapestry of deception. Yet the picture remained elusive, and Poirot sensed the killer was one step ahead, weaving distractions to obscure the truth. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, "the puzzle is complex, but Hercule Poirot shall unravel it, thread by thread." The morning brought a new urgency, for a second crime had shaken the manor, complicating the Sure investigation beyond the locked room's enigma. Poirot was summoned to the study by Inspector Japp, whose face was grim. "It's gone, Poirot," Japp said, gesturing to the desk where the ruby dagger had been secured as evidence. "The blasted thing's been stolen, right under our noses." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Stolen? Interessant. When was it last seen?" "Last night, after we locked the study," Japp replied. "My constable checked at midnight. The door was secure, no sign of tampering. Yet this morning, the dagger's gone." Poirot examined the desk, noting the absence of forced entry. The lock on the study door was intact, and the windows remained bolted. "Another locked room," he mused. "The killer is bold, to steal from the scene of their crime." He turned his attention to the household, beginning with Clara Ashbourne, whose connection to Paris had piqued his interest. He found her in the conservatory, pacing among the ferns, her dark curls framing a face pale with worry. "Mademoiselle," Poirot began, "your time in Paris, tell me more. There are whispers that you knew a man of questionable reputation." Clara's eyes flashed with defiance, but her voice trembled. "You mean André Dubois? He was an artist, yes, and some called him a thief. We were friends, but I left that life behind." Poirot tilted his head. "A thief, you say, and now the ruby dagger vanishes. A coincidence, perhaps?" Her hands clenched. "I didn't take it, Monsieur Poirot. I was in my room all night. Ask Miss Lyle." Poirot made a note to verify her alibi, but Clara's past suggested a motive for theft, if not murder. The dagger's value could fund a new life, far from her father's control. Next, Poirot sought Dr. Victor Hargrove in the library, where he was reviewing medical notes. The cyanide vial still weighed heavily on Poirot's mind. "Doctor," he said, "Lord Ashbourne's death bore the scent of cyanide, yet the dagger suggests a different method. What can you tell me of his health?" Hargrove hesitated, his charming smile absent. "He had a heart condition, angina. I prescribed digitalis, but it could mimic cyanide poisoning in high doses. If someone tampered with his medication..." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A clever ruse, no? To poison a man, then stage a stabbing. But who had access to his medicine?" Hargrove swallowed. "Only me and Mrs. Grayson, who prepared his tea, but I swear I gave him the correct dose." Poirot's next stop was the kitchen, where Mrs. Florence Grayson was kneading dough, her hands moving with nervous energy. "Madame," he said gently, "you prepared Lord Ashbourne's tea. Did you notice anything unusual?" Her eyes darted to the door. His tea was as always, chamomile with a touch of honey, But I saw Miss Lyle near his study late last night after dinner. She said she was fetching a book, but she looked anxious." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Miss Lyle, you say? Merci, madame." He found Miss Beatrice Lyle in the drawing-room, her embroidery abandoned, her face pale. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, producing the small brass key from the desk. "This key, does it belong to a safe, perhaps? One containing secrets?" Lyle's hands trembled, but she met his gaze. "I don't know, Monsieur Poirot. Lord Ashbourne had many private matters. Perhaps it's for his safe in the library." Poirot followed her lead to the library, where a small safe was hidden behind a portrait. The key fit perfectly, revealing a bundle of letters tied with ribbon. The handwriting matched the half-burned fragment, but the contents were cryptic, references to a past mistake and a debt repaid. One letter mentioned a woman named Evelyn, unknown to the household. Poirot pocketed the letters, his mind racing. Was Evelyn a key to the motive, or another distraction? The investigation took a sharp turn when Japp burst in, holding a crumpled note found in the garden. "Look at this, Poirot," he said, "found near the cliffs, by that boot print." The note, scrawled in haste, read, "Meet me at midnight. The truth must out." It was unsigned, but the ink matched the quill in Lord Ashbourne's study. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A meeting planned, perhaps with the killer. But who wrote it? The final twist came from an unexpected source: the stopped pocket watch. Poirot re-examined it, noticing a faint inscription on the back, "To R.A. from E. 1895. The watch was not Lord Ashbourne's, he realized. It was too old, too worn for a man of his wealth. Had it been placed to mislead the time of death? Testing the mechanism, Poirot found it had been deliberately jammed, the gears forced to stop at 11:45 p.m. "Sacré," Poirot murmured. "The watch is a lie, a trick to confuse the timeline. The killer wants us to believe death came at midnight, but it was earlier or later." He gathered the household in the drawing-room, observing their reactions as he revealed the stolen dagger and the stopped watch. Lady Eleanor's face remained impassive, but her fingers tightened on her shawl. Clara's eyes darted to Miss Lyle, who stared at the floor. Hargrove shifted uncomfortably, while Ramsay's gaze lingered on the window, as if expecting his stranger to appear. Mrs. Grayson twisted her apron, her lips moving silently. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot said, his voice calm but commanding. "The killer is among us, and they are clever. The dagger's theft, the watch's deception, these are not accidents but designs. Someone seeks to frame another to cloud the truth." Lady Eleanor spoke sharply. "Then find them, Monsieur Poirot. This manor cannot bear more tragedy." Poirot nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. The cyanide could have been in the tea, the digitalis a clever mimic. The dagger's theft suggested a second motive, greed perhaps, or a need to hide evidence. The letters pointed to a past scandal, possibly involving this Evelyn. And the note in the garden hinted at a confrontation gone wrong. Each clue deepened the mystery. But the red herrings, Ramsay's stranger, the mother of Pearl Button, threatened to derail him. As night fell, the amber harbour glowed faintly, its light a beacon through the storm. Poirot stood by the study window, the letters and key in his pocket, the note's words echoing in his mind. The killer had manipulated the scene, but they had left traces Poirot would follow. "Mon Dieu," he whispered, "the game grows dangerous, but Hercule Poirot is equal to the challenge." Host: "What a twist with that stolen dagger and stopped watch! Is Clara's Parisian past the key, or is that mysterious Evelyn the real clue? Drop your theories in the comments, and let's see if you can outsmart Poirot's little grey cells. Chapter 6. The Revelation. The storm over Cresthaven Manor had softened to a mournful drizzle, but the air inside remained charged with tension. Hercule Poirot stood in the drawing-room, its velvet drapes drawn against the amber glow of the harbour, casting the room in a warm but sombre light. The household gathered before him. Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, her face a mask of icy control. Clara Ashbourne, her dark curls framing eyes that flickered with fear. Dr. Victor Hargrove, his charming facade strained. Miss Beatrice Lyle, her hands clasped tightly. Captain Hugh Ramsay, his navel bearing rigid, and Mrs. Florence Grayson, hovering near the door, her apron twisted in her fingers. Inspector Japp leaned against the fireplace, his moustache twitching with anticipation. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice steady, "we stand in the shadow of a crime most ingenious. A murder in a locked room, a ruby dagger stolen, a watch stopped, and secrets buried in ash and ink. But Hercule Poirot has seen through the deception, and the truth, it shall now be revealed." The room fell silent, save for the soft patter of rain. Poirot paced slowly, his cane tapping the floor, his eyes scanning each face. The murder of Lord Reginald Ashburn was no simple act of violence. It was a performance, a tableau designed to mislead. Let us begin with the clues. He held up the small brass key from the desk. This key, found hidden in the study, unlocks a safe containing letters. Letters speaking of a past mistake and a woman named Evelyn. They suggest a scandal, one Lord Ashbourne wished to keep buried. Lady Eleanor's lips tightened, but she said nothing. Poirot continued, producing the half-burned letter fragment. This, found by Mademoiselle Clara, speaks of betrayal. Its handwriting matches the letters in the safe, written by a woman, perhaps Evelyn, perhaps another. Clara shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to Miss Lyle. Poirot turned to the stopped pocket watch, its inscription reading, "To R.A. from E. 1895. This watch, he said, was not Lord Ashbourne's. Its gears were jammed to show 11:45 p.m., a false time of death. The killer wished us to believe the crime occurred at midnight, but it did not." Japp interjected, "But the cyanide, Poirot. That almond scent, Hargrove's vial proves it." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Précisément, Inspector. The scent of bitter almonds suggests cyanide found in Dr. Hargrove's medical bag, but Dr. Hargrove revealed Lord Ashbourne's heart condition, treated with digitalis, which could mimic cyanide's effects in overdose. The killer used this knowledge to confuse us." Hargrove's face paled. "I told you, I gave him the correct dose." Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, Doctor. Let us consider the ruby dagger, stolen from the locked study after the murder. Its theft was no afterthought. It was part of the plan. And then the naval boot print by the cliffs, claimed by Captain Ramsay to belong to a stranger. Yet the print matches his own boots." Ramsay stood, his voice sharp. "I saw someone, Poirot. I'm no liar." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "We shall see, Captain. But first, the mother-of-pearl button, found in the fireplace ashes. It belongs to no one in this room, suggesting an outsider or a clever plant." He paused, letting the tension build. The locked room, it is the heart of this mystery. The door was locked, the windows bolted, the passage collapsed. Yet Lord Ashbourne died, poisoned and stabbed. How? The answer lies in the simplest of truths. The room was not locked when the crime occurred. Gasps rippled through the room. Poirot continued. The killer entered, committed the act and locked the door afterward, using a duplicate key. This key was later planted on Lady Eleanor to cast suspicion. Lady Eleanor's eyes widened. "Planted! I never touched that key." "Exactement, madame," Poirot said. "You are meant to be blamed, but let us name the true culprit, Miss Beatrice Lyle." Lyle's head snapped up, her face draining of colour. "Me! Monsieur Poirot! This is absurd!" Poirot's voice was calm but unrelenting. "Mademoiselle Lyle, you were Lord Ashbourne's confidant, trusted by the family for years, but you harboured a secret. The letters in the safe, signed Evelyn, were written by you, your true name, Evelyn Beatrice Lyle. They spoke of an affair long ago between you and Lord Ashbourne, a scandal he buried to protect his reputation." Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Lady Eleanor's face hardened, but she remained silent. Poirot pressed on. "Lord Ashbourne discovered you were blackmailing him, threatening to reveal the affair unless he paid. He refused, and so you acted. You poisoned his tea with digitalis, not cyanide, knowing his heart condition would make it lethal. The almond scent was a ruse, almond extract, added to mislead." Lyle's hands trembled, but she shook her head. "You have no proof." Poirot produced the mother-of-pearl button. "This, mademoiselle, fell from your glove as you burned the letter in the fireplace, hoping to destroy evidence. The letter fragment Mademoiselle Clara found was your mistake. And the ruby dagger? You stole it, not for greed, but to sell and fund your escape." He turned to the watch. "The pocket watch, inscribed to Lord Ashbourne by you in 1895, was your final error. You placed it to suggest a midnight death, but you jammed it too forcefully, leaving it stuck. Your alibis were weak. Mrs. Grayson saw you near the study late at night, not fetching a book, but planting the key on Lady Eleanor." Lyle's composure cracked, her voice rising. "This is nonsense! I was loyal to this family." Poirot's gaze was piercing. "Loyalty, mademoiselle, turned to betrayal when Lord Ashbourne threatened to expose your blackmail. You entered the study before dinner, gave him the poisoned tea, and returned later to stage the scene with the dagger, locking the door with your duplicate key. The scratch on the floor? From moving the chair to position the body, a small but fatal detail." The room was silent, the weight of Poirot's words sinking in. Lyle's shoulders slumped, her eyes filling with tears. He ruined my life," she whispered. "The affair was years ago, but he cast me aside, kept me as a servant in his house. When I asked for money to start anew, he laughed. I couldn't bear it." Japp stepped forward, handcuffs in hand. "That's enough, Miss Lyle. You're under arrest." Clara sobbed, turning to her mother, who remained stoic. Hargrove looked relieved, Ramsay stunned, and Mrs. Grayson whispered a prayer. Poirot watched as Lyle was led away, her confession echoing in the room. "Mon Dieu," Poirot said softly, "the heart, it leads to great folly, but the little grey cells, they find the truth." He turned to Japp. "The dagger, Inspector, you will find in Miss Lyle's room, hidden in her sewing box. The duplicate key is likely in her possession still." Japp nodded, already barking orders to his men. Poirot stepped to the window, gazing at the amber harbour, its glow steady despite the storm. The puzzle was solved, but the cost was heavy, a family fractured, a secret laid bare. "Mes amis," he said, turning to the household, "the truth is a bitter medicine, but it heals. Let Cresthaven find peace now." As the rain fell, Poirot's thoughts lingered on the watch. The button, the letters, all pieces of a tragedy written long before the murder. The killer had been clever, but not clever enough. "Host, what a revelation! Did you guess Miss Lyle was the killer, or did Poirot's deductions surprise you? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me how close you were to solving this locked room mystery. Chapter 7. Justice Served. The rain had ceased at last, leaving Cresthaven Manor shrouded in a heavy mist that clung to the amber-hued windows like a veil of mourning. The drawing-room, where Hercule Poirot had unveiled Miss Beatrice Lyle as the murderer, was now quiet, save for the soft crackle of the fire and the distant lapping of waves against the harbour. The household sat in stunned silence, their faces a gallery of shock, relief, and lingering pain. Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, her emerald eyes fixed on the floor, seemed carved from stone. Clara Ashbourne, her cheeks streaked with tears, clutched her mother's hand. Dr. Victor Hargrove stared into the fire, his shoulders slumped. Captain Hugh Ramsay stood by the window, his naval bearing softened by exhaustion. Mrs. Florence Grayson, ever the silent observer, lingered near the door, her apron still twisted in her hands. Inspector Japp, directing his constables to secure Miss Lyle, turned to Poirot with a rare nod of respect. "Mon ami," Poirot said softly to Japp, "the case is closed, but the heart of Cresthaven Manor, it bleeds still. Let us ensure justice is tempered with understanding." Japp, practical as ever, adjusted his hat. "You've done your part, Poirot. My men found the ruby dagger in Lyle's sewing box, just as you said, and a duplicate key hidden in her glove box. She's confessed to everything, poisoning the tea with digitalis, staging the dagger, planting the key on Lady Eleanor. We're taking her to the station now." Poirot inclined his head. "Merci, Inspector. But allow me to speak with Mademoiselle Lyle one final time. The truth, it is complete only when all is said." Japp shrugged, motioning to a constable to bring Lyle from the library, where she had been held under guard. She entered, her grey dress rumpled, her once prim posture broken. Her eyes, red from tears, met Poirot's with a mix of defiance and despair. The household watched, their silence heavy with judgment. "Mademoiselle Lyle," Poirot began, his voice gentle but firm, "you have confessed to the murder of Lord Reginald Ashbourne. But there is more to your story, non? Speak now, for the truth, it frees the soul." Lyle's lips trembled, and she sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. "I never meant for it to end this way," she whispered. "Years ago, when I was young, Reginald, he promised me a future. I was Evelyn then, naive, in love, but he cast me aside, married Eleanor, and kept me on as Clara's governess to silence me. I was a prisoner in this house, bound by shame." Clara's breath hitched, her eyes wide. Lady Eleanor's face remained impassive, but her knuckles whitened. Lyle continued, her voice breaking. "When I learned he was planning to disinherit Clara, to punish her for Paris, I saw my chance. I asked for money, enough to start over, to escape. He laughed, said I was nothing. So I took the digitalis from Hargrove's bag, mixed it with almond extract to mimic cyanide, and put it in his tea. I thought it would look like a heart attack, but when he collapsed, I panicked. I used the dagger to make it seem like a robbery, locked the room with my duplicate key." Poirot nodded, his expression sombre. "And the watch, the letters? The watch was mine, a gift to him years ago," Lyle said. "I placed it to confuse the time of death. The letters? I burned most of them, but Clara found one. I stole the dagger later, hoping to sell it and flee." Poirot's eyes softened. "You sought freedom, mademoiselle, but chose a path most tragic. The little grey cells of Hercule Poirot, they see the heart as well as the crime." Lyle sobbed, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry, for Clara, for everything." Japp's constable stepped forward, guiding Lyle out. As she passed Clara, the young woman reached out, then stopped, her hand falling. The door closed, and the room felt emptier, as if the manor itself exhaled. Poirot turned to the household. Mesdames et messieurs, the crime is solved, but its echoes remain. Let us reflect on what has been lost, and what may yet be saved. Lady Eleanor spoke at last, her voice cold but steady. Monsieur Poirot, you've done us a service, but at what cost? My husband is dead, my daughter's trust shattered. What now? Poirot's gaze was steady. Madame, you inherit Cresthaven Manor, its wealth and its burdens. Use them wisely. Mademoiselle Clara, your father's control is gone. You are free to forge your own path, but with care. Clara wiped her tears, her voice soft. I want to leave, Mother. Start anew, away from this place. Lady Eleanor's expression softened, a rare crack in her armour. Perhaps we both need a new beginning. Dr. Hargrove cleared his throat, his relief palpable. I'll stay on if you'll have me, Lady Eleanor. The manor needs a doctor, and I owe you that much. Captain Ramsay, still by the window, turned. I'll be leaving soon. My debts to Reginald are settled in a way. Time to face the sea again. Mrs. Grayson, silent until now, spoke quietly. The manor's seen too much pain. I'll keep it running for Clara's sake. Poirot smiled faintly. Bon. The wounds of Cresthaven, they will heal with time and truth. He stepped to the window, gazing at the amber harbour, its glow steady now, free of the storm's shadow. The mystery had been a labyrinth, cyanide mistaken for digitalis, a dagger stolen to mislead, a watch stopped to deceive, a key planted to frame. Yet each clue had led him to Lyle's truth. A woman scorned, driven to murder by years of resentment. The mother-of-pearl button, the burned letters, the naval boot print, all distractions, but Poirot's logic had cut through them. Japp approached, clapping Poirot on the shoulder. You've outdone yourself, Poirot. A locked room, a double crime, and you solved it in days. I'll never understand those grey cells of yours. Poirot's eyes twinkled. They are but tools, mon ami, sharpened by observation and order. The human heart, it is the true mystery. As the household dispersed, Poirot lingered, his thoughts turning to the broader canvas of human nature. Blackmail, betrayal, love twisted into vengeance. Such were the forces that drove even the quietest souls to darkness. Yet justice, served with clarity, offered a chance for redemption. He packed his small case, arranging his toiletries with precision, and prepared to depart. Grayson met him at the door, his stooped figure weary but grateful. You've brought peace, sir, he said. The manor won't forget. Poirot bowed. Nor will Hercule Poirot forget Cresthaven. Adieu, monsieur. The Rolls-Royce awaited, its engine purring as it carried him down the winding road. The amber harbour faded into the mist, its glow a memory of secrets unveiled. Poirot leaned back, his mind already turning to the next puzzle, for the world was full of mysteries, and his little grey cells were ever ready. Host, and there it is, the mystery of Cresthaven Manor laid bare. What did you think of Poirot's deduction and Lyle's confession? Were you moved by the manor's fractured family, or did justice feel complete? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let me know what kind of Poirot story you'd love next. Chapter 8. Shadows of Truth. The mist over Amber Harbour hung low, wrapping Cresthaven Manor in a ghostly embrace that seemed to whisper of unfinished business. Hercule Poirot, his suitcase packed and his departure imminent, stood in the grand hall, his sharp eyes lingering on the portraits of Ashbourne ancestors. Their painted gazes seemed to follow him, as if urging him to look deeper. The murder of Lord Reginald Ashbourne had been solved. Miss Beatrice Lyle's confession, the recovered ruby dagger, the duplicate key, and the staged locked room all laid bare by Poirot's little grey cells. Yet a faint unease stirred within him, a sense that the puzzle, though complete, lacked a final piece. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured, his gloved fingers adjusting his hat. The truth, it is like the harbour's amber glow, clear, yet ever-shifting. He had planned to leave for London that morning, but a message from Clara Ashbourne, delivered by the stoic butler, Mr. Grayson, had delayed him. She had something to show him. Something she claimed changed everything. Poirot found Clara in the library, a room heavy with the scent of old leather and dust, its shelves a testament to the manor's history. Clara's dark curls were pinned haphazardly, her eyes red from sleeplessness, but burning with urgency. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice low, "I couldn't let you leave without seeing this." She handed him a small leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and edges worn. Poirot's moustache twitched as he opened it. The handwriting was Lord Ashbourne's, precise but hurried, dated weeks before his death. The entries detailed his growing suspicion of Beatrice Lyle's blackmail, confirming her motive, but one passage caught Poirot's eye. Evelyn's return was a mistake. She knows of the child. My greatest shame. If Clara learns the truth, all is lost. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Mademoiselle, this child, do you know of whom he speaks? Clara shook her head, her hands trembling. I found it in father's safe, behind the portrait after Miss Lyle's arrest. There was another letter too, but it's gone now. I think it's about me. Poirot's mind raced. The letters in the safe, signed Evelyn, had pointed to Lyle's past affair with Lord Ashbourne. But a child. This was new, a thread that tugged at the fabric of the case. He resolved to speak with the household once more, for the journal suggested a deeper motive, one that might explain Lyle's desperation, and perhaps another's complicity. He began with Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, finding her in the drawing-room, where she sat with a ledger, her emerald dress a stark contrast to her pale face. "Madame," Poirot said, holding up the journal, "this speaks of a child, a secret Lord Ashbourne feared. What do you know?" Lady Eleanor's eyes flickered, but her voice was cold. "Reginald had many secrets, Monsieur Poirot. If there was a child, it was before my time. I knew of his affair with Evelyn, Beatrice, but I chose silence for Clara's sake." Poirot studied her. "And yet, madame, you stood to inherit the estate. Did you know of Lyle's blackmail?" She met his gaze. "I suspected she was trouble, but murder. No, if there's a child, it's news to me." Her composure was flawless, but Poirot sensed a guarded truth. He moved on to Dr. Victor Hargrove, who was packing his medical bag in the conservatory, preparing to resume his duties. "Doctor," Poirot said, "the journal mentions a child. As Lord Ashbourne's physician, did he confide in you?" Hargrove's hands paused, his face tightening. "He mentioned a past regret once, in passing, something about a mistake that could ruin Clara. I assumed it was financial, not this." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And the digitalis, doctor? You knew its effects could mimic cyanide. Did you suspect Lyle's plan?" Hargrove shook his head. "I swear, I thought it was a heart attack until you found the almond extract. I'm no killer, Poirot." Next, Poirot sought Captain Hugh Ramsay, who was in the garden staring at the cliffs where his stranger had been a red herring. "Captain," Poirot said, "you knew Lord Ashbourne's secrets, we? A child, perhaps, from his past?" Ramsay's weathered face hardened. "He never spoke of a child, but he was a man with shadows. I owed him money, not loyalty. If there's more to this, ask the Graysons. They see everything." Poirot found Mrs. Florence Grayson in the kitchen, her hands busy with a teapot. "Madame," he said gently, "the journal speaks of a child, a secret Lord Ashbourne feared. You knew of his affair with Miss Lyle. Was there more?" Mrs. Grayson's eyes filled with tears. I heard rumours years ago. A child, born to Evelyn, Miss Lyle, sent away to protect the family's name. I never knew more, but it broke her, I think." Poirot's heart quickened. The child was real, a secret that fueled Lyle's blackmail and murder. But where was the child now? And why had Clara found the journal only after the arrest? He returned to the library, where Clara waited, her expression fragile. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, "this journal suggests you may be the child of Evelyn Lyle, not Lady Eleanor. Did you suspect?" Clara's breath caught. I wondered. Mother, Lady Eleanor, always treated me like an obligation, not a daughter. But father never said anything." Poirot's mind whirred. The final twist emerged. Lyle had killed not just for money, but to protect Clara, her daughter, from being disinherited. The journal's discovery was no accident. Lyle had left it in the safe, hoping Clara would find it after her arrest, a final act of maternal confession. Poirot gathered the household once more in the drawing-room, the amber light casting long shadows. "Mesdames et messieurs," he said, "the case of Lord Ashbourne's murder is solved, but a deeper truth remains. Miss Lyle was not only a blackmailer, but a mother. Mademoiselle Clara, you are her daughter, born of her affair with Lord Ashbourne." Clara gasped, collapsing into a chair. Lady Eleanor's face crumpled, her stoic mask shattered. "I knew," she whispered. "Reginald told me years ago. I raised Clara as my own, but I could never love her as he did." The room was silent, the weight of the revelation crushing. Hargrove and Ramsay exchanged stunned glances, while Mrs. Grayson wept softly. Poirot continued. "Lyle's murder was a desperate act to secure Clara's future, to prevent Lord Ashbourne from cutting her from his will. The journal was her final gift, a truth she could not speak in life." Clara's voice was barely audible. "She killed for me?" Poirot nodded. "Oui, mademoiselle. A mother's love, twisted by pain, led to tragedy." Lady Eleanor stood, her voice steady despite her tears. "Clara, I was harsh, but this manor is yours now. Stay or go, but know you are free." Clara nodded, her eyes distant. "I need time to understand." Poirot stepped to the window, the amber harbour glowing softly. The case was complete, its layers peeled back to reveal not just a murder, but a family's hidden heart. He turned to the household. "Mes amis, let this truth heal you. The past is heavy, but the future is yours to shape." As he prepared to leave, Poirot reflected on the human heart, its capacity for love, betrayal and redemption. The manor would endure, its secrets now in the open, its amber glow a beacon of hope. Host, what a final twist! Did you suspect Clara's true parentage, or did Poirot's revelation catch you off guard? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me what you loved most about this mystery's end. Chapter 9. Echoes of amber, the mist over Amber Harbour had lifted, revealing a pale November sky that bathed Cresthaven Manor in a soft, melancholic light. The amber-hued windows, once ominous in their glow, now seemed to shimmer with a quiet promise of renewal. Hercule Poirot, his departure delayed by Clara Ashbourne's revelation of the journal, stood on the manor's terrace, his gloved hands resting on his cane, his sharp eyes tracing the horizon where sea met sky. The murder of Lord Reginald Ashbourne had been solved. Miss Beatrice Lyle's confession exposing her crime and her secret motherhood. Yet Poirot's little grey cells hummed with a faint unease. A whisper that the manor held one final enigma. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, his breath visible in the crisp air. "The heart of Cresthaven is laid bare, but its shadows linger, There is something yet to be seen. Clara's discovery of her true parentage had shaken the household, and Poirot sensed the manor's residents were still grappling with truths too heavy to bear alone. He resolved to spend one final day, ensuring no stone remained unturned. Poirot began with Clara Ashbourne, finding her in the garden, where she sat on a stone bench overlooking the cliffs. Her dark curls were loose, her face pale but resolute. In her hands was a small locket, its silver surface engraved with an intricate E. Evelyn, Poirot presumed, Miss Lyle's true name. "Mademoiselle," he said gently, "you have learned much, and yet you remain. Why?" Clara's eyes met his, glistening with unshed tears. "I found this locket in Father's safe, with the journal. It has a portrait inside. Miss Lyle, when she was young. I can't leave until I understand her, Monsieur Poirot. Why she did it for me." Poirot nodded, examining the locket. The portrait showed a youthful Beatrice Lyle, her smile radiant, a stark contrast to the broken woman taken away in handcuffs. "This locket," he said, "it is a key to her heart. But tell me, did you find anything else in the safe?" Clara hesitated, then produced a folded paper, its edges crisp, unlike the burned letters. "This was tucked inside the journal. It's not Father's handwriting, nor Miss Lyle's. It mentions a meeting, the night he died." Poirot unfolded the paper, his eyes scanning the brief note. "Reginald, meet me at the lighthouse, 10 p.m. We must settle this E." The E matched the locket's engraving, but the handwriting was unfamiliar, bolder than Lyle's elegant script. Poirot's moustache twitched. "Intéressant. Another meeting, another secret. We must investigate, mademoiselle." He sought Lady Eleanor Ashbourne next, finding her in the study, sorting through Lord Ashbourne's papers. Her emerald dress was replaced by sombre black, her face weary but composed. "Madame," Poirot said, presenting the note, "this speaks of a meeting at the lighthouse the night of the murder. Did you know of it?" Lady Eleanor's eyes flickered with surprise, then hardened. "No, Monsieur Poirot. Reginald kept his own counsel. If Evelyn, Miss Lyle, met him, it was her doing, not mine." Poirot studied her. "And yet, madame, you knew of the affair of Clara's parentage. Did you ever confront your husband?" Her lips tightened. "I confronted him once, years ago. He swore it was over, that Evelyn was no threat. I believed him, for Clara's sake." Poirot sensed truth, but also omission. He moved on to Dr. Victor Hargrove, who was in the conservatory, tending to a wilting fern. "Doctor," Poirot said, "this note suggests a meeting at the lighthouse. Did Lord Ashbourne mention such a plan?" Hargrove shook his head, his hands steady now. "He was agitated that day, muttering about settling all debts. I thought it was about my bills, but perhaps it was her." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And your digitalis, doctor? It was used to kill. Could another have accessed your bag?" Hargrove frowned. "It was in my room, but I don't lock it. Anyone could have taken it, I suppose." Next, Poirot found Captain Hugh Ramsay by the cliffs, near the old lighthouse mentioned in the note. His naval boots were clean now, but his face bore the weight of guilt. "Captain," Poirot said, "you spoke of a stranger by the cliffs. Yet this note suggests Lord Ashbourne met someone here. Were you mistaken?" Ramsay's jaw clenched. "I saw someone, Poirot, a figure cloaked, near the lighthouse around 10 p.m. I didn't lie, but I didn't tell the whole truth. I followed them, saw them enter the lighthouse, but I didn't see their face." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "And you did not tell Inspector Japp this? Why?" Ramsay looked away. "I owed Reginald money. I thought if I got involved, It'd look worse for me. Finally, Poirot spoke with Mrs. Florence Grayson in the kitchen, where she was polishing silver with trembling hands. "Madam," he said, "you knew of Miss Lyle's past, her child. Did you see her near the lighthouse that night?" Mrs. Grayson's eyes widened. I saw a light there, late, from my window. I thought it was the keeper, but he's been gone years. I didn't think it mattered." Poirot's mind raced. The note, the lighthouse, the figure, these were no coincidence. He resolved to visit the lighthouse, a crumbling structure perched on the cliffs, its beacon long extinguished. Clara accompanied him, clutching the locket, her steps hesitant but determined. The lighthouse interior was damp, its stone walls slick with moss. Poirot's torch revealed a small table, a single chair, and a scattering of papers, old letters in the same bold handwriting as the note. One read, "Reginald, you cannot hide forever. Evelyn knows, and so do I. The child deserves the truth." It was signed M.G. "Mon Dieu," Poirot whispered. "M.G. Mrs. Grayson?" He confronted Mrs. Grayson back at the manor, her face crumpling as he showed her the letter. "Madame," he said, "you wrote to Lord Ashbourne, demanding he reveal Clara's parentage. You met him at the lighthouse, non?" Mrs. Grayson sobbed. I did. I knew Evelyn was Clara's mother, saw how it broke her. I begged Reginald to tell Clara, to free her from this house's lies. He refused, said it would ruin her. I left him there, alive, I swear." Poirot nodded. "You were not the killer, madame, but your meeting set the stage. Miss Lyle, learning of it, acted to protect her daughter." The household gathered one last time, Poirot revealing Mrs. Grayson's role, not as a murderer, but as a catalyst. Clara embraced her, tears falling. "You tried to help me," she said. "Thank you." Lady Eleanor, softened by grief, agreed to fund Clara's departure, a new life away from Cresthaven. The manor, though scarred, began to heal. Poirot stepped onto the terrace, the amber harbour glowing softly. The lighthouse secret was no crime, but a plea for truth, echoing the manor's deeper wounds. His work was done. Host, what a poignant close! Did Mrs. Grayson's secret surprise you, or did you sense another layer to this mystery? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me what Poirot adventure you'd love next. Chapter 10. The Amber Dawn. The dawn broke over Amber Harbour with a rare clarity. The mist parting to reveal a sky streaked with gold and rose. Cresthaven Manor stood silhouetted against the horizon, its amber-hued windows catching the first light like embers rekindled. Hercule Poirot stood on the terrace, his immaculate suit pristine despite the long days of investigation, his moustache perfectly waxed, his cane resting lightly in his gloved hands. The murder of Lord Reginald Ashbourne had been solved, Miss Beatrice Lyle's confession unveiling a tragic tale of blackmail and motherhood. Clara Ashbourne's parentage and Mrs. Grayson's hidden role had added layers to the mystery, but as Poirot prepared to depart, a faint whisper of doubt lingered in his mind. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, gazing at the harbour's shimmering expanse. "The puzzle is complete, yet the heart of Cresthaven speaks still. There is always one final note in the symphony of truth." His little grey cells, ever restless, sensed a shadow, an echo of something unseen, perhaps a question unanswered. Poirot's departure was set for the midday train, but before leaving, he wished to ensure the manor's residents could move forward. He began with Clara Ashbourne, finding her in the library, surrounded by books that seemed to guard her like silent sentinels. She held the silver locket with Beatrice Lyle's portrait, her fingers tracing its engraved E. Her dark curls framed a face now softened by resolve, though her eyes carried the weight of her newfound truth. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, his voice gentle, "you have faced great sorrow, yet you remain. What is your path now?" Clara's lips curved in a faint smile. "I'm leaving for London, Monsieur Poirot. Mother, Lady Eleanor, has agreed to fund my studies. I want to paint, to create something beyond this manor's shadows. But I'll carry Miss Lyle's memory with me, not as a killer, but as my mother." Poirot nodded, his eyes warm. "Bon, you honour her by choosing life over vengeance. But tell me, have you found anything else among your father's papers? A final clue, perhaps?" Clara hesitated, then reached into her pocket, producing a small sealed envelope. This was in the locket, tucked behind her portrait. "I didn't open it. It's addressed to you." Poirot's moustache twitched as he took the envelope, its surface marked with a single word: Poirot. The handwriting was Lyle's, elegant and precise. He slipped it into his coat, sensing it held a message meant for this moment. "Merci, mademoiselle. I shall read it in private." Next he sought Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, who was in the drawing-room, her black mourning dress stark against the room's opulence. She stood by the fireplace, her emerald eyes fixed on a portrait of Lord Ashbourne, his stern gaze softened by the amber light. "Madame," Poirot said, "Cresthaven is yours now. Will you stay?" Lady Eleanor turned, her face weary but composed. "I'll manage the estate, Monsieur Poirot, for Clara's sake. She deserves a legacy untainted by scandal. I was cold to her, but I'll make amends." Poirot studied her. "And the truth of her parentage, does it change your heart?" Her lips trembled, but she nodded. "She's my daughter, in all ways that matter. I'll ensure her future is secure." Poirot inclined his head. "C'est bien. The manor heals through such acts of grace." He found Dr. Victor Hargrove in the conservatory, tending to a revived fern, his hands steady now that suspicion had lifted. "Doctor," Poirot said, "you remain at Cresthaven. Is it duty or atonement?" Hargrove smiled faintly. "Both, perhaps. My carelessness with the digitalis cost a life, indirectly. I'll stay to serve Lady Eleanor and the village. It's a small penance." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And the lighthouse meeting, did you know of it?" Hargrove shook his head. "Only what Mrs. Grayson confessed. I wish I'd seen more, done more." Captain Hugh Ramsay was on the cliffs, his naval coat flapping in the breeze. He turned as Poirot approached, his weathered face etched with relief. "Captain," Poirot said, "your debts are settled, your stranger a fiction. Why linger?" Ramsay's gaze drifted to the sea. "The manor's my anchor, Poirot. I'll sail again soon, but I needed to see this through. You've cleared my name. I'm grateful." Poirot nodded. "And the lighthouse? You saw a figure. Was it truly Mrs. Grayson?" Ramsay hesitated. "I thought so, but it was dark. Could have been anyone." Finally, Poirot met Mrs. Florence Grayson in the kitchen, where she was preparing tea, her hands steadier now. "Madam," he said, "your plea to Lord Ashbourne set this tragedy in motion. Do you regret it?" Mrs. Grayson's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted truth for Clara, not death. I'll stay, keep this house alive for her." Poirot smiled softly. "Your heart, madame, is its own redemption." With the household accounted for, Poirot retreated to his room to read Lyle's letter. He broke the seal, revealing a single page in her elegant script. "Monsieur Poirot, if you read this, I am gone, my crime exposed. I killed for Clara, my daughter, to protect her from Reginald's cruelty. But there is one truth I could not bear to speak. The ruby dagger holds a secret, a hidden compartment in its hilt. Open it, and you will understand why I acted. Forgive me, Evelyn." Poirot's heart quickened. He summoned Inspector Japp, who had lingered to finalize reports, and requested the dagger, now in police custody. Japp, grumbling but curious, retrieved it. In the study, Poirot examined the ruby-encrusted hilt, finding a tiny catch. With a click it opened, revealing a folded note and a small glittering ruby, separate from the dagger's adornments. The note, in Lord Ashbourne's hand, read, "To Clara, my true heir. This ruby, my mother's, is yours. Evelyn's claim is false. She seeks only wealth." Poirot's eyes widened. The ruby was a bequest, proof of Clara's legitimacy, hidden to thwart Lyle's blackmail. "Sacré," Poirot murmured. Lyle killed not just for love, but to secure this ruby, believing it her daughter's right. Japp scratched his head. So she stole the dagger to get the ruby? Why not take it and run? Poirot's moustache twitched. Because, mon ami, she wished to leave it for Clara, a final act of sacrifice. She staged the theft to ensure its discovery after her arrest. He entrusted the ruby and note to Clara, who wept, clutching the locket. "It's all I have of them both," she said. "I'll carry it always." As Poirot boarded the Rolls-Royce for the station, the amber harbour glowed with dawn's promise. The manor stood resilient, its secrets laid bare, its future uncertain but hopeful. The dagger's hidden ruby was the final piece, a testament to love and greed intertwined. "Adieu, Cresthaven," Poirot whispered, his thoughts turning to new mysteries. The amber light guides, but the heart reveals. Host, what a breathtaking close. Did the dagger's secret surprise you, or did you sense one last twist? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me what Poirot mystery you'd love to explore next.